Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. Some nights I open an email and I can tell right away. This one came from someone who's been carrying something they shouldn't have to carry alone. Not fear, not panic. Something deeper. Something that sticks to a person for years because they were never able to make sense of what they saw or what it did to them afterward. Tonight's not the usual I heard something outside kind of thing. These are people who weren't supposed to break. The ones who had training, discipline, experience. People who've lived out in the world long enough to know what's normal and what's not. And every one of them admits, in their own way, that something out there shook them in a way they've never said out loud before. Some try to rationalize it. Some try to bury it. Some try to laugh it off like it didn't get inside their head. But if you listen close, you can hear it. The hesitation in the writing, the part they're still trying to convince themselves that never happened. Remember, most of these aren't just encounters as we see them. These are moments that change a person. The kind you don't talk about unless you're finally tired of pretending that it didn't happen. To me, there's always something in these emails that just lingers. It feels legitimate to me. Something that'll make you wonder what else could be out there, watching us. Lock in, legends, and let's begin. Everyone grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Hello. I'm not a man who would be known to write into a show or whatever you want to call this. But people keep telling me holding all this in is going to put me in the ground early. So here I am. I've been in law enforcement for a little over 20 years. Small county, very rural. This is where you know every face by name, whether you want to or not. I've worked everything from meth labs to a couple drownings, missing hikers, farm accidents. I've seen things that I still get nightmares about. But I'm telling you right now, nothing I've ever dealt with or seen before compares to what happened to me 5 years ago in the fall, down near the riverbed on the west side of the county. Now you can believe, since then, if a call comes from out that way, I'll make an excuse, and I'll send one of the younger guys. They probably think I'm lazy or I'm losing my edge. I don't really care. I'm not stepping foot near that place again. I don't think my heart could handle seeing that a second time. This all started with a simple welfare check. Dispatch got a call from a guy saying he heard screaming coming from the trees past his property line. He said it wasn't human. I remember rolling my eyes because people exaggerate everything out here. I drove out there anyway because it was a slow night. When I got to his place, he was standing on his porch. A grown man in his 50s, shaking like a leaf. I asked him what direction he heard it from, and he just pointed toward the riverbed. He wouldn't even look that direction. Told me he didn't want to go with me. I didn't try to push him. I figured he'd been drinking or he'd just freaked himself out in the dark. I walked down there alone, knowing what I know now. Looking back, that was a horrible mistake. But as they say, hindsight is always 20/20. Now that place has always had a strange feel to it. The paths are pretty narrow, there's tree roots sticking up everywhere. It's thick. You can't hear the road once you're 20 or 30 yards in. Everything just gets muffled out. I got a little ways down the slope, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I've only felt that twice in my career. both times right before something really bad happened. I turned my light off just for a second so I could listen. That was my mistake. I should have kept it on. As soon as the dark settled in around me, I knew I wasn't alone. I could feel something's presence, and it wasn't something good. It was like whatever it was did not care that I was there. I said out loud, "Sheriff's office. Who's out there?" My voice sounded weak. I hated that. I got no answer. I was met with heavy breathing. I raised my flashlight and shined it in the brush. I didn't see anything. Then, I don't know how to explain this. It's like the sound all changed. Like the breathing moved behind me without any between steps. 1 second it was in front of me. The next second it was directly behind me. I spun around and damn near fell over. That's the moment that I was hit with this deep, low growl. It wasn't a cougar. It wasn't a dog. I've heard both of them on night patrols plenty of times. This was something else. This was too deep and too controlled. Whatever it wasn't scared of me or my weapon or anything else. I backed up that hill. I didn't run. I knew not to. I didn't look away either. I didn't see it. I saw the shape of it. I could see it was standing on 2 legs, and it was standing just outside the reach of my light. It was very tall. Its shoulders were broad. Its head looked like a wolf's head, but much bigger and much wider. I can't even understand how something could be this fast. I focused on the shape. I blinked, and it was gone. I heard no footsteps, no sounds at all. It was just there 1 second, and gone the next. I got back in my cruiser and just sat there with the doors locked for I don't know how long. I remember my hands were shaking. I couldn't even hardly get the key in the ignition at first. When I finally did, I just took off without even thinking. I didn't write out a report. I didn't say anything to dispatch. I told the homeowner he probably heard coyotes fighting, but he looked at me like he knew I was lying. I didn't know what to say or how to handle a situation like this. Needless to say, I haven't been the same since that night. I can barely sleep. I keep checking the locks on my doors 3-4 times a night. I'm jumpy over the smallest of sounds. My wife says my temper has gotten worse. She's not wrong. Whatever I encountered down there, it's still out there. I can feel it. That riverbed is wrong. It's always been wrong. And I'm telling you, no one should be going down there alone, especially after dark. There's nothing down there for anyone. Make of this what you want. I don't need any sympathy. I just need to tell this, and maybe it'll help me or someone else. J.M. Brother, I don't know how people usually start these. I'm not a writer. I'm not even a talker. I've been back from deployment for quite a few years now. The funniest part is nothing over there ever messed me up the way one night here at home did. I'm laughing just typing this. Not a real laugh, though. More like the I might lose my mind kind of laugh. Anyway, here's what happened. So I like to camp. And I don't mean the Instagram type camping where people take pictures of their food on a fancy stove. I mean the real kind. Alone, quiet, no people asking me if I'm doing okay. I was out at a place called Pine Hollow. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's just woods and a small lake and nothing else. I go out there because no one bothers me. Or well, they didn't used to. That's why I'm being a bit vague with locations. I don't need people out there messing around in the woods, disturbing the area, and possibly getting hurt. That would weigh on my conscience for the rest of my days. I set up my camp a couple hours before sunset. I just had a small one-man tent. I built a very small fire. I like to keep a low profile. I brought my old military pack out of habit. Everything was normal for a while. It was actually relaxing. I even joked out loud to myself like an idiot. Nothing is going to sneak up on me out here. If I'd known what was coming, I'd have just punched myself for saying it. Sometime after dark, I would guess it was probably around 11, I started getting a feeling like I wasn't alone. You know that tension in your shoulders? The one that feels exactly like when someone stares at you from behind? That one. I've ignored that feeling a lot of times in my life. This time I didn't. I grabbed my flashlight and started looking around. I didn't see anything. I checked the other side. Still nothing. I said out loud, "All right, I get it, brain. You're being weird again." I tried to laugh it off. It didn't help. Then something moved behind my tent. I heard it shift. This wasn't a small animal either. It was something large. Not a lot of super dangerous predators out here, but you still have to be cautious. I froze up, not because I was afraid of the dark. I've slept in worse places than this many times. I froze up because whatever was walking back there was walking slow. It wasn't wandering or trotting around. It was stepping like it knew exactly where it was and exactly what I was doing. I whispered, "Nope, nope, absolutely not." I unzipped the tent as quietly and quickly as I could and stepped outside with my flashlight and a knife. Yeah, big tough soldier with a knife. I can hear it now. I don't know why I grabbed that instead of my pistol. Maybe I wasn't thinking clearly. Maybe I didn't expect to run into problems like this. Maybe I didn't want to admit that I needed the pistol. Anyway, I shined the light toward the trees. Eyes. These were level, if not taller than mine. They were red, not a bright neon red, more like coals being blown on in a fire. Slow burning, and they were focused on me. I saw them narrow as soon as I saw this creature. I thought maybe this was a prank. Some idiot with some kind of goggles or a cheap mask. But then it moved its head and I heard something that I can't even type this out the right way. It was a rumble, a growl. It was deeper than that, like a big diesel engine idling, but wet in its throat. I stepped forward, and there it was. It was stood straight up. And I've seen men break bones, lose limbs, get shot, all kinds of warm welcome to war stuff. But seeing something that size, standing on two legs, a damn werewolf, basically, my brain checked out completely. It showed its teeth. What a pretty smile it had. This wasn't exactly what I would call growling or snarling. It was more like it was just showing me, like, look what I have. See what happens if you run. I don't know why to this day, but my reflex made me talk to this thing like I would a dog. It was just like, "Hey, buddy, you're okay, calm down." I have no idea why I did that. Zero clue. It all just spilled out. It tilted its head like it was confused, or maybe annoyed, or maybe deciding if that was enough reason to kill me. I finally caught myself and stopped my foolish banter and talk. After a few seconds, it just stepped back, turned slowly, and walked off into the woods. It's like it was just done with me, like I wasn't even worth the effort. I didn't break camp, I didn't pack anything. I just left. I went to my truck and drove. I left the whole campsite there. It's still there from all I know. The tent, the pack, everything. I'll buy more gear. I can't buy a new life. I don't care about the gear. Reals, I'm not kidding. I haven't camped since. Not once. I can barely sit in my backyard after dark without checking behind my grill like 5 times. My buddies think I've just finally cracked some type of anxiety or PTSD. My mom keeps telling me to talk to somebody. I guess I'm talking to you now. Thanks for reading this, and if you use it on your channel, change my first name. The last thing I need is one of my platoon guys clowning me over this. I've suffered enough. I've paid my dues. E. Reels. I'm writing this because I don't have anyone in my field I can talk to about this without blowing up my entire career. I'm a wildlife biologist here in northern New Mexico. I've worked for the state, for a private conservation group, and more recently as a consultant for multiple landowners who want wildlife impact reports before they start development. I've spent more nights in the field than in my own bed. I tell you all that because I need you to understand one thing first. I don't believe in monsters. I don't believe in paranormal anything. I believe in biology, patterns, anatomy, and data. Or at least I did. I'm not looking for pity or attention. I'm looking for somewhere to put this before I lose my grip and say something to the wrong person. So I'll just walk through the night exactly as I remember. No exaggerating, no theatrics. I'm writing this like I'm filing a report, because that's the only way I know how to talk about it without panicking. This was late September, southeast of Farmington, on a parcel of land a couple had just bought. They wanted a wildlife impact survey done because the property backs up to a canyon and they plan to build. Simple job. I've done 100 of them. I hiked out around dusk to set up 2 camera traps and mark scat samples. Canyon walls make sound bounce weird at night, so I like to get familiar with the terrain before it gets fully dark. It was quiet except for distant coyotes and the occasional flutter of bats. There was nothing strange about any of it. Around 9 p.m. I settled on a flat rock ledge overlooking the wash. I took some notes, reviewed some tracks, ate a granola bar. I wasn't expecting anything more interesting than maybe a mule deer moving through. Around 10, I started hearing movement on the south ridge. It was light-footed movement, but not light-footed like a coyote. It was not the heavy bounding movement of an elk. This was something in between, something steady, something sneaky. I know that's probably a phrase most people hate. Steady. It was steady, like something large but being cautious. I scanned with my thermal monocular. Nothing. The brush was too thick. At 10:20 the movement got louder. It was moving closer. I checked the wind direction. It was blowing east. Whatever it was, wasn't downwind of me, so it shouldn't have smelled me. Animals usually behave predictably when they detect human scent. This one did not. I should mention something important. I wasn't afraid at this point. Curious, maybe, slightly on alert, but not afraid. Fear didn't hit until I heard the breathing. People think animals breathe loudly when they're big. They don't. Large predators breathe quietly unless exerting effort. This breathing was low, wet, almost like a person with congestion, but much deeper. Too deep for a human chest cavity to produce. I immediately wondered to myself, could this be a bear? but the cadence just didn't fit. Bears huff, they chuff, they grunt. This was none of those. I turned around slow and shined my dimmed headlamp toward the sound. I saw eye shine immediately. Now these were not the wide-set yellow-orange of a bear. These reflected a dull red at first. Then they caught the light and shifted to a muddy amber. The eye placement was wrong. They were too far forward facing, too high off the ground, too far apart horizontally for anything I've ever cataloged. I stood up. That was probably a mistake. Animals react to height changes. The breathing paused. Then it just stepped into view like, here I am. I'm stating this carefully and without embellishment. The animal was upright. It walked on two legs. The proportions were not right for a bear standing up. The arms were too long. The shoulders were too narrow. The posture was just too balanced. And the shape of the head, that's the reason why I'm talking to you. It wasn't exactly what I would call a wolf head. The muzzle was shorter. The jaws were a lot wider. Its ears were tall, but they were pointed back, not forward, like something adapted for both hearing and intimidation. I remember thinking, this can't exist. This is not possible. That was my first actual thought. It wasn't fear or shock. It was denial. The creature took another step, and I heard the ground under it compress. This thing was heavy. I didn't even move at all. I don't think I could have. I know better than to trigger a chase response in a predator, and this Dogman thing is definitely a predator. My brain switched into pure training mode. I slowed my breathing. No direct eye contact. Shoulders turned slightly away to appear non-threatening. It stared at me for a long time, maybe 15-20 seconds. I never saw its teeth. It didn't growl. It just almost evaluated me. Then it did something I still cannot wrap my head around. It tilted its head sideways, exactly like a curious dog does, slow and smooth. But the way it did it, this wasn't curiosity. This was studying me, assessing me, like it recognized something about me and didn't know what to make of it. I remember not hearing this out loud, but hearing it in my head. I heard, "I'm not here for you." The instant I heard this, it straightened its head, turned its body in one motion, and walked back into the brush, upright. No dropping to all fours, no stumbling at all. This thing was steady until it was out of sight. I don't know how that's possible, but I saw it. I stood there for at least 10 minutes before I could make myself move again. I had trouble packing my gear. My legs felt like jelly. I left one of my camera traps out there because I couldn't force myself to go after it. It was in the direction that thing went. I wasn't about to even try to go close. I kid you not, I got zero sleep for 2 days after that. My colleagues think I'm sick because I keep canceling field surveys. I'm reading through textbooks and ecology journals, like a lunatic trying to find something, anything that fits what I saw. Nothing does. I've always heard people tell their encounter stories with Bigfoot and other creatures that I always thought were fake, and they still could be. Maybe this Dogman is the only weird thing out there, but after seeing it, I highly doubt that, and I have my suspicions there could be more things out there that we have not identified. I mean, think about it. If this thing is walking around, what else could be out there? This thing broke every rule I've ever taught students, every lecture I've ever given. every paper I've ever cited. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a misidentification due to it being dark. I've spent half my life in the field at night. I know what I saw. My worldview is fractured. I don't know how else to say that without sounding dramatic. I feel like I've lost the ground under my feet. If one rule of biology is broken, what else is? I would never go back to that canyon, even though it never shown signs of wanting to hurt me. I don't plan to. I'm avoiding night work entirely, which means I'm losing contracts left and right. I'm close to quitting the field altogether. I don't know what I believe anymore. I don't know what you'll do with this email. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I just needed to send it, to say this to someone, somewhere, to get it out. Thanks. Daniel. Reels. First of all, I just want to tell you I really enjoy your show. I'm not good at talking about my feelings. I never have been. I've always been the type of person who says things like, facts don't care about your feelings, and science is the only thing you can trust. I still want to believe that. I still want to believe the world works the way I thought it did. But something happened to me in March that ripped that whole worldview out by the roots, and I haven't been the same since. I keep checking the hallways of my own house like a paranoid lunatic. I don't sleep anymore. I don't go outside after dark. The worst part is I don't even know what I believe now. I don't believe in God, or heaven, or ghosts, or anything. But I also don't believe that the world is what we think it is. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'll just tell you what happened. I live outside Santa Rosa, New Mexico. Not really a town, just a house on some land that used to be my uncle's. I work from home, software stuff, boring. I stay up late, a lot, because that's just how I'm wired. Back in March, I was pulling a late night doing a deploy for a client, probably around 1:30 in the morning. I had the windows open because the weather was perfect. There was a breeze, it was cool. It was an early spring morning. I remember thinking how quiet and peaceful everything was. I remember that because I remember how quickly it all ended. I heard something hit the side of my house that sounded like a sledgehammer. It was a sound that came from right behind where I was sitting. I just stopped for a second. My first thought was, that could not have been a raccoon. My second thought was, there's no way. Raccoons don't smack walls. I turned down the fan on my desk and listened. There were no more sounds. After about 10 seconds, I convinced myself it was nothing and just went back to work. And then, as if it was trying to get my attention and convince me that there was something out there, it hit again, a lot harder the second time, right on the other side of the wall from me, like something sliding its hand down the siding. I pushed my chair back so fast it tipped over. Now, I don't get scared easily, and I felt like someone had dumped cold water down my back. I grabbed my flashlight from the kitchen drawer and went out the back door. That was very stupid, I know. I don't even know why I did it. Probably ego. Most likely because, like I said, I don't believe in things like this. But I damn sure do now. The side of the house was empty. There was nothing there. No animals, no prints in the dirt. Nothing was disturbed. I checked the other side and still found nothing. I started to think maybe I'd imagined it. Stress. Sleep deprived, whatever. I went back inside and locked the door behind me. I wasn't sitting 5 minutes before something tapped on the window. It was 3 light taps. The exact rhythm of someone tapping with their knuckles. I felt every hair on my body stand up. This is when the panic and the dread and fear all set in at once. I remember wanting to get up and go to a different room to get away, but I couldn't. All I could do was stare at that window, waiting for something to happen. The curtains were closed, but the porch light outside was on, so the curtain had a glow to it. And then I saw the shape of something move behind it. Even though the shape and dimensions of this was almost like a person, it was tall. The top of the shape went above the curtain rod, too tall to be a person. I don't have vaulted ceilings or anything. Whatever was outside that window was absolutely massive. It was skinny at the bottom, and it widened as it went up. Its shoulders were too high, really, for me to see much. The head was definitely above the top of the window, so at first I didn't see it. I watched it pass by that window and move on, towards the direction of the yard. I had to see what it was. I got up and moved quick but quiet to that window and moved the curtain. What I saw was something that was at least 8 feet tall, and it looked like someone wearing a wolf mask, except the thing moved like it was real. There's no way this was a human. It was just too big. I literally could not breathe. My chest locked up, and for a second I thought I was having a heart attack. But now, later, I realized it was just a panic attack, which if you've ever had one, you know how terrifying this is. The fact that one of these things was that close to my window, with the window actually open, haunts me now. It could have easily just crawled in that window and I would have had nowhere to go. I felt like a rat trapped in a cage. I watched it until it got close to enough distance away I was comfortable with making it to my truck. I grabbed my keys and ran barefoot to the truck. I didn't even bring my phone. I just drove to the Allsups in town and sat there in the parking lot like a scared child until the sun came up. I finally went back home, but I wasn't comfortable until I checked every corner with a metal baseball bat in my hand. And I've never told this to anyone, not even my sister, who's very close. That night completely broke me. I used to laugh at people who got scared of things they couldn't explain. I used to mock religion, mock cryptids, mock anything that wasn't proven in a textbook. I used to sleep with the windows open and walk outside at night to look at the stars. Now, I sleep with every light on in the house. I can't have the blinds open after dark, and having the windows open is no question. It's not happening. I even keep a Bible on the nightstand even though I don't believe a word in it. It just feels safer, I guess, like I need something between me and whatever's out there. I feel stupid writing this, weak even, like I'm betraying everything I've built my identity on. But I cannot get rid of the feeling that something saw me that night. Not just looked at me, it saw me, the real me. And once something like that sees you, you can't go back to pretending the world is normal. I want you to share this, but don't use my real name. Thank you. Anonymous. Reels. Now listen, I am the last person anyone would think would be writing crap like this. I almost didn't send it. I don't want attention. I don't want anyone thinking I'm special or I have some type of sight or ability. I definitely don't want people thinking I'm one of those folks who sees Bigfoot in their cereal and everywhere I look. I used to make fun of people that do that. So let me be real clear up front. I'm not scared of the woods. I'm scared of what's in it. I'm 34 years old. I'm pretty fit. I've lived in Flagstaff most of my life. I've spent half of my weekends on trails. Real trails, too, not the tourist ones. I've camped alone more times than I can count. I know the sounds out there. I know what's normal and what's not. I don't get jumpy over shadows. I don't freeze over animals or coyotes yipping or elks bugling in the distance. I know animal sounds. You get used to hearing those after spending countless hours out there. This was in 2020 in late August. It wasn't wildlife, and it wasn't my imagination. I hate even typing that sentence, but there's no other way to put it that doesn't make me feel like a liar. I was on a hike by myself up near Sycamore Canyon. It's not a very popular area, the backside where the old fire roads branch off. I'd gone off trail maybe a quarter mile, just exploring. It was around 6 p.m. I had plenty of light left. The weather was ideal. I was walking a slope that led down into a little clearing with a dead tree in the middle. I remember that tree exactly. It would be hard to forget it. It was lightning split. The bark was peeled down on one side like a ribbon. It looked cool enough I took a picture of it. That's how normal everything felt. The woods just went silent. It wasn't a gradual thing either. They just cut off instantly. You know in the movies when they mute the background. It was that kind of quiet all at once. Even my footsteps sounded muffled, like the ground was just soaking up the sound. I told myself I was just overthinking it. I kept walking, 100 feet more, maybe. I was getting ready to loop back up toward the ridge. I heard something uphill behind me, a soft sound, like something shifting its weight and the dirt moving underneath of it. I turned around thinking maybe it was a deer or another hiker. But the minute I turned, all the sounds stopped. I stood there like an idiot for a solid minute, trying to listen to hear another sound. I felt stupid and just kept going. Except you ever get that feeling in your gut that you're being watched or stalked? Like heat on the back of your neck. I got that. Hard. I walked another 30 seconds and I heard it again. It had moved closer this time. It was the same pattern of 2 or 3 steps and then stop. I thought, great, this is a mountain lion. It's stalking me. That's how they stalk. Except mountain lions don't wait for you to turn around before they get quiet. They don't play games like that. I spun around again, fast, this time trying to catch whatever it was off guard. All I saw was trees, rocks, and brush. I screamed out loud. All right, the joke's over. Yeah, like the forest cares. I took maybe 2 steps forward, and there this thing was, just standing there. It wasn't the whole thing, just movement. I saw it move between 2 trees uphill from me. Something tall. It pulled back like it didn't want me to see it. This definitely was not a person, unless a person was 8 to 9 feet tall and built like a linebacker. The limbs were long, skinny. The shoulders were high. The movement was very smooth, almost like it was gliding across the ground. My stomach dropped to my feet, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I felt this wave of heat roll through me like my body was saying, whatever that is, you cannot outrun it. I kept thinking the same thing, trying to calm my nerves. It's just a person. That's someone messing with me. But deep down, I knew there was no way it was. I saw it lean out from behind the tree, It was enough for me to see half of the body, the upper half, and the head. It was dog-shaped, large, slanted ears and the outline of a muzzle, longer than any dog could ever be. It looked like a wolf, but standing upright. I only saw it for maybe half a second, but that was plenty enough for my brain to just rebel, like it didn't want to accept the shape. I started moving away, just a single step here and there. I broke. My macho story here. No, I held my ground. I turned and ran, full sprint. I don't remember thinking, I don't remember breathing, I don't remember half of the trail. I just remember the sound of something big pacing me uphill. It was letting me know that it could catch me if it wanted. When I finally reached the fire road, I almost fell on my face. My lungs were burning, but I didn't dare stop or slow down. Even when I couldn't hear anything behind me, I still didn't stop. When I got back to my vehicle, I locked the doors so fast I dropped the keys twice. I sat there for a bit, angry, shaking, embarrassed. I kept saying, "You're an idiot. You ran from nothing. You imagined all of that. Because the alternative." I just didn't want to face it. But here's the kicker. When I got home that night and took off my pack, the back of it had dirt on it, like something had brushed me from behind while I was running. If that doesn't chill you, I don't know what would. I haven't been hiking after. Not once. Every time I try or think about it, I get sick to my stomach before I can even leave my driveway. All my friends joke that I finally got old and soft, and I laugh along with them because the truth is much worse. The truth is something saw me out there, and I saw it. Something tall, something smart, something that wasn't supposed to exist. And it let me go. That's the part that bothers me most. And I hear other people say the same. Why do these things let everyone go? Or do they? I guess we wouldn't know if the people aren't here to tell us that they didn't get away. What happens next time if it decides not to let me go? That's the exact reason that I stay out of the woods. It's like people that are afraid of sharks. Don't go in the ocean, and you don't have to worry about it. Anyway, that's it. If you read this or not, just don't use my real name. I don't want people trying to find me or think that I chickened out over a shadow, even though that's exactly what I did. Appreciate the time. Anonymous. Reels. You can use the name Patrick here. I'm not sure why I chose that name, it's just the first one that came to mind. That's obviously not my real name, but it'll work. I'm 67 years old and I ran cattle on the same land in western Nebraska for most of my life. My granddad started that ranch. My dad took it over, then me. 3 generations. I figured I'd die out there same as them. But I sold it last year. All of it. About 260 acres. Gone. My kids still won't talk to me about it because they think I've lost my mind. And maybe I have. I don't even know anymore. What I am sure of is I wasn't safe out there. Not after what happened. And selling was the only way I could get myself to sleep again. Now, I'm not the best at things like this, so this might come out slower and rougher than the rest of your emails. I never thought I would even do one of these. Hell, I used to roll my eyes at all of these shows like yours. I always figured folks were mixing alcohol with lonely nights. But things change when the thing you don't believe in walks out of your own windbreak. This started 3 winters ago, mid-January. It was a cold snap, down around 0 every night. You work fast in that type of weather, and you get inside. I was doing my evening check on the heifers because a couple were close to calving early. The snow had drifted up against the north fence, but that was normal. I was halfway back to my house when my dog started acting weird. He wasn't a scared dog, he wasn't skittish. He was an old border collie, smartest dog I ever had. But that night he kept circling in front of me, whining, almost blocking me like he didn't want me walking toward the west pasture. I got annoyed with him and told him to cut it out, but he still wouldn't move. I had to step around him. As soon as I did that, I heard this sound. It was a low noise coming from the windbreak, a line of old pines my dad planted back in the 70s. At first I thought it was cattle bawling, but it wasn't. This was like the sound had a purpose. It was too deep and it was directed. I shined a light toward the trees. The beam didn't reach far, but it reached far enough to hit a set of eyes. Not normal reflection. These were dark, blood red. They were duller than any eye shine I'd ever seen, and they were too damn high off the ground. I'm a decent-sized fella. I'm 6'2", and these eyes were a lot higher than mine. They were higher by at least 2 heads or more. The dog growled behind me, but it wasn't a warning growl. It was the sound he made before fighting a coyote. He didn't run. He stayed behind me. His tail was tucked. I imagine most folks would be the same as me in this situation. You yell out something or scream, "Who's out there?" or something stupid. I already knew it wasn't a who, so it was pointless. I think I was just trying to spook an animal away. But it stepped between the trees, and that was all she wrote. I could see it was upright. I could see its chest was as broad as a large television. Its arms were way too long, and its head was shaped like a huge wolf. It looked down at me like it was sizing me up. I remember the steam from its breath. I don't remember moving, but I must have backed up because suddenly the dog was pressed against my legs. It never attacked. I never saw any bluff charges. The thing just stared at me, and that way it was watching was worse. It felt like judgment. I forced myself to move toward the house. I don't even know how I did it. Every step felt like a mistake. I finally made it back and locked the door. First time I'd ever locked the door on that property in my entire life. I sat in the kitchen for about an hour with a shotgun. The dog would not stop pacing around. I told myself it was a fluke, a one-time thing. Whatever that was, it was some freak mutated animal with mange or something of the sort. That lie held together for maybe 2 days. Then the calves started disappearing. That's when I knew I had an actual, real-life problem. They weren't mauled. It wasn't dragged off with signs of a struggle. They were just gone. I found no tracks, no blood trails. I found nothing. One in the west pasture, one in the north, 2 in the lower field. 4 calves were gone in 10 days. I called the county trapper, and he told me mountain lions can do that sometimes. But I've lived around mountain lions my whole life. They'll leave some sort of sign, always. You'll find tracks, drag marks, scat, blood, something. But there was nothing. The windbreak started getting that smell to it, like wet fur and old copper. It's hard to explain, but I knew the smell wasn't right. One night around 3 in the morning, something slammed into the side of the barn so hard the metal rattled. I heard it all the way from the house. I grabbed my shotgun and went out on the porch. I didn't even have to shine a light. I could see it standing by the barn because the moon was full. It looked taller than the first time I saw it, or maybe I was just more scared this time. I don't really know. But it stood there, its arm against the corner of the barn like it was listening or smelling for something inside. I screamed at it. It was a panicked scream. It turned its head quick, snapped it in my direction. The motion was not animal-like. It was too smooth. Looked like a human. I fired a warning shot into the dirt right in front of it. It didn't even flinch. It just looked at me for a few seconds, slowly turned and walked back toward that windbreak like it wasn't scared at all. This thing owned the property now. It made that clear. I was no threat whatsoever. That was the night I decided the ranch wasn't mine anymore. This went on at random times throughout the years. When it would get really bad, I would go out and try to sleep in my truck with the engine running so I could take off fast if I needed to. My kids all said I was losing it. My daughter begged me to sell and move into town. I told her I'd die before I sold that land. Turns out I was wrong. Turns out I would have probably died if I hadn't sold the land. The longer I stayed, the worse it got. There was one point, the last straw for me, was when it tried to open the door and get inside the house. The next day I called a realtor. I sold the place for way less than it was worth. I just packed up, took my dog, and left. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but it was necessary. I'm in a small rental now on the outskirts of town. There's no woods, no windbreaks, no open land. I miss that ranch every day. It feels like I lost a family member. Sometimes I feel like part of me died when I left. But I can actually sleep again. Not great, mind you, but better than before. I still dream about that thing and that windbreak. Sometimes I think I hear something breathing when I'm out back, taking the dog out to use the restroom. I know people will say stress made me see things, or grief, or age, or being alone. But I know the truth. It wasn't the land that changed. It was what came onto it. Once something like that chooses your land, I don't think it's ever really yours again. That's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Patrick. Friends, legends, family. If you made it this far, then you already understand something that most people never will. These aren't stories you tell by a fire. These aren't jokes or tall tales from folks trying to get in the spotlight. These are people who spent years pretending everything in life was fine, until it finally caught up with them, which it always does. Trust me. There's a soldier somewhere who can't sleep without checking his windows, a biologist who stopped trusting his own science, a man who never believed in anything, even God, who's now afraid of the dark inside of his own house, who, strangely, keeps a Bible close by for protection. Yeah, you might need to consider thinking on that one more, my friend. There's more to that. Also, there's a hiker somewhere who hasn't set foot on a trail since the day something watched him run away. I totally get it. Trust me. Also, there's a rancher who walked away from his family land that they had held on to for generations. That takes something really strong. That's serious fear to push someone away from their family farm. These are all different lives, different places, but it's always the same look in their words. It's a quiet kind of fear that comes through even an email, and it won't go away. Whatever these things are, whatever they want from us, They don't show up and disappear. They'll stay with you. For years, mostly. Sometimes. Forever. To the people who sent these in, thank you for trusting me with something this heavy. And to all of you listening, thank you for being here and supporting what I'm trying to build. What we are all trying to build here together. And to you channel members, the folks who share these videos, everyone who helps this community, thank you. I cannot say that enough. That's going to do it for this one. Please like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. That helps the channel tremendously. It's already hard enough to get attention in this YouTube algorithm. They try to block it as much as possible. Some folks will say no, but I've seen it firsthand. It happens. Anyways, everyone please stay safe out there. Pay attention to the quiet. If something in these stories felt a little too familiar, remember, you're not alone, and you know how to reach me. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones, keep your head on a swivel, and as always, good night.